Johanna, the people have been waiting. The people have been wondering where we're at and what we're doing.
We are well, you are more busy out and about around the world, but I'm also very busy at home.
Hmm. Yes, we have been quite busy. We've not forgotten about the Raiders. It's just
No.
we got our tour put together. We got all of our folks together that we're chatting with every day. I had to do an expedition in Mexico and Central America, and then I had to do this expedition in New Mexico, and
I was
Johanna's got more important things going on than all that, and just a lot of
I
stuff.
was just watching our opening, and I was like, we can actually, when we're in Egypt, we can actually film like a proper little opening.
Ooh, yeah, that's
That
right. That's
both
right.
of us in the video.
Hey, you know what we should do while we're in Egypt is we need to get like the way I photoshopped this together. We need an actual picture with the pyramids.
Yeah, we're gonna get some. We're gonna be so annoying on the tour because we'll be like, "Can you just take our picture? Can you just take our picture? Sorry, can you take our picture? Sorry."
Yeah,
Just
yeah. And
every
then
site.
somewhere in there we'll come up with a new headshot for the podcast, and then we'll get a new intro film. So that's gonna be really, really fun.
Yeah, it only takes us like 9 years to make content.
That's all right. That's all right. Are we coming up on 2 years of Raiders?
I think so, but well, this summer will be, yeah, because I missed last Cosmic. I know it's insane how quickly and how old we get.
Where did the time go?
It's sucked into the oblivion. Time speeds up, or our perception of time speeds up. Do you remember when you were a kid and like the whole summer holiday was just like a year?
I know.
It felt like a year, and now you just blink and it's the next Christmas and the next Christmas.
I know. I was thinking about when I was in school, and I used to. So we would have to keep up to be able to play sports. You had to have like a minimum grade every year, and
Mhm.
so I was an awful student, absolutely horrible. This was before I realized that it was easy for me to study history, and that was the only thing I could actually study and be good at.
Mhm.
But I remember my coaches being like, man, you're not going to be able to play with these grades. You got 6 weeks to be able to get these grades up. And I remember like thinking 6 weeks was because everything was based on a 6 week schedule. And I remember like how long it would take for
Yeah.
6 weeks to go by. And then all of a sudden it's like, boom, a year is gone. Boom, another year is gone. It's crazy.
Luke, just a technical thing. Do you have a mic on, or are you going through your laptop mic
Uh-oh.
at the moment? Because you sound a little bit tinny.
Am I a little tinny?
Yeah, and do I sound okay?
No, you sound great. It might just be me.
Hello.
I could change that, but it would take me a little bit.
Okay. Well, I can fill some time once you do some technical things. So, it's been a minute since we've done Raiders. It's been like 11 months and since I was able to drop an actual YouTube video because if people don't know, I became a mum last year, and my plan was that I was going to like make all these YouTube videos and I would release them once a month after I had the baby, and like nobody would notice I was missing. Plan went to pot. I had a really, really tough pregnancy and I was sick the entire time. I made no videos. I just disappeared into a hole in the ground for a long time. So I haven't had any time. And also now trying to make a YouTube video and have a baby is like near impossible. But I'm back and I'm trying to commit myself to like at least one video a month. So this was me coming back this month, and I managed to get two in one go. So if you haven't seen, I'm gonna shout out my own video because I need to like wake my channel back up again. It's been a bit dormant, it's been a bit sleepy. So I really appreciate the help to like prop it back up and send me back off into the algorithm so that people can find what we want to chat about. But I chose to do a video on the Atlantis in the Green Sahara because my views on Atlantis have changed over the years that I've been like researching it and looking into it. So I wanted to sort of do an update. And there's a lot going on right now to do with like Green Sahara research. There's an excavation happening. But the exciting thing that happened today was, I did not expect this. I got an email from George Sarantitis. he's the dude. He's the guy that I shouted out in my video, because if you didn't know, the whole Rickatts structure theory, the guy who literally did all of the years of translation work on Plato's Atlantis, he retranslated Plato's Atlantis and found that the 19th century translation was a bit dodgy, and that translating it into English, you lost all the nuance from the ancient Greek, and it was very different to whether you if you translated like modern Greek into modern English. That is also different. So there's a very nuanced dialect and context and everything that Plato was writing in.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Does it sound a lot better?
That's better. Well done. Welcome to the podcast.
Okay, keep going.
So George, and so he retranslated Atlantis, not Atlantis, Plato's Timaeus and Critias, and he then followed all of the new sort of geography and the new there's a lot of like maths that went into it as well. And he was the guy that said, I think that the Rickatts structure, that Eye of the Sahara, could be like a very good location for a center point for what Plato was describing based on this new translation. And then he went out in, I think, the early 2000s. He went out to the Rickatts structure and was one of the very first like pioneer expedition guys out there. And then obviously in the last 10, 20 years, lots of different people, YouTubers, have gone out to the Rickatts structure following George's work, but George kind of got lost in the mix. I think that George should definitely be someone to go on Rogan. I think he'd bring a lot to the table. He's a Greek academic, and yeah, so I didn't even know how he watched my video, but he reached out and he emailed, and he wants to send me like a book that he's written, that he said that he only really gives to like libraries or people who are interested in what he's researching.
Where's he from? Do you know?
He's from Greece. He's Greek.
Oh, he's Greek. Wow.
He's Greek.
So he reads, writes, speaks ancient Greek.
Oh yeah. And he worked alongside a lady called Eva. Oh, I've forgotten her second name. I want to say Eva Daiquiri. She's a philologist, which I don't know what that is, but it sounds great. Philologist. And she helped him. She works at the university in Greece, in ancient texts, and yeah, and he's done a lot of work. He like the academy in Greece commended him for his work on like translating the Odyssey and I think Homer's Iliad. Like he does a lot of the old texts, not just specifically anything to do with Atlantis or Plato. And I don't even think he necessarily believes in Atlantis. He was more coming from just an academic look at the text translation, correct text translation. And yeah, so but anyway, he's reached out and he wants to send me a book, and he wants to help me. He sent like, actually it was quite a lengthy email. I need to go back and look at it. But he's given me lots of starter points for stuff to research, and he wants to help me if I want to make a third video with like more information. So yeah, I was really happy to platform the guy's name, because I felt really sad that he did all that work and then kind of achieved none of the like clout for it online. Yeah, and then so that's cool. That's exciting. So I'm going to be working alongside George Titus.
Hey, that's super cool.
With more Greek translation stuff. I'm just very excited.
That is really cool. I had a wonderful conversation the other day with Mike Collins, Wandering Wolf. I was over on his channel. We were talking about Greek stuff. He and I were doing a Greek tour together in November, and we were talking about Plato. And I was basically saying, I think we have a lot more freedom to interpret Plato than I think some people realize, right? Like the Greeks are not. They're very intelligent, very knowledgeable people. They're interested in their ancient past, but they have a very fuzzy understanding of it. Like the Athenians, who Plato was during, the 5th century BC to the 4th century BC, they don't really understand their past because of the Bronze Age collapse. So they're trying to understand it. That's why the Egyptians say that there are no old Greeks, that the Egyptians are all like children. Or I'm sorry, that the Egyptians say that the Greeks are all like children because the Greeks
Yeah,
don't
they
they
don't
don't
remember
remember,
anything.
yeah, they don't remember their past. And 5th century, or let's call it 400 BC's, that century, Greek authors, when they are recalling events that happened 200 years earlier, they get some of the broad points right, but that's where history and myth start to come together. So, like, when it comes to Solon, we don't know everything about Solon. He was a real guy who really lived in Athens. He really was a lawmaker, but then some of his story is a little bit of legend too. And so they're probably it is very likely that he did go visit Egypt, but is Plato 100% right in what he's in everything that he's saying, or are there kernels of truth there and Plato's doing his best to convey that, right? So I think we have a bit of freedom here. You don't have to follow every single thing that Plato says right down to the exact line, because in general the Athenians aren't 100% right when they're historians, even in their own lifetime, like when Thucydides is writing about the Peloponnesian Wars. He's not right about everything he's saying, but he's doing his best. And so I think that when we're studying Atlantis, you have a whole lot of flexibility here to be able to play with these interpretations.
Well, yeah, George is saying that the text is so nuanced and layered that it
Mm.
has actually different levels that mean different things to different levels of initiate. So you've got like a beginner basic level of a basic story, and then weaved within the text there are certain words and numbers and things that
Mm.
are, if you're on like an initiate level, if you're a higher student, there's a whole other level. And so he spent like literally 4 years like unpacking all of it. This is why I love doing this live, because I've got you guys in the comments and someone's just helped me out, and they've said Sean Tice said a philologist is a scholar who specializes in the study of language in written historical sources. Thank you, Sean, because yeah, so he works alongside this scholar from the University of Athens, I believe, Eva is from, and yeah, and he was just pointing out that like even languages, they don't stay static, and one word can mean one thing and then 50 years later we can flip it. Like he didn't this isn't George's example, but it's a good one that I like to use. They go, in about 100 years or 200 years, they won't know, people might not know the difference between a butt dial and a booty call, but they're very different. But do you know what I mean? Like we know exactly what that is, but in the future they'll be like, yes, and he booty called his own father. We're like,
That's
what?
really interesting.
Um. So yeah, or like even now it might show people's ages, but there's a certain generation who has a affiliate like a funny affiliation with the word the number 69, and then the new generation, they don't have that, but they have 6-7 means something to the younger kids. They're all like 6-7, and I'm of the generation that I'm like, what? I don't get that one.
But 6-7 actually means nothing, doesn't it?
I don't know, but like, but so apparently people are like people like call it out in McDonald's when it's like order number 6-7, and all
Oh
the
my.
kids, all the kids are like, way, but it was before it used to be like order 69. Everyone was like, way. So
Yeah.
again, we've got like encoded numbers that can change and encoded words and things. So very cool. And also one more point, just making sure I touch people in the touch people in the comments. Here we go. Someone said about, yes, George also in the documentary Atlantis Puzzle, they talk about the end. This is from Michael B. Highballs, who says, by the way, what do you guys think about Critias ending and leading into Homer's Odyssey? And that is true. So you know the ending of Critias, where it looks like it just ends mid-sentence and it goes, and the gods said, and you're like, oh my gosh, did Solon die? Are we missing a page? Like, where's the end of the text? And actually when you look at the scene in Homer's Odyssey, It's the exact same scene that's mirrored in Plato's Critias. It's about the pantheon of the gods, and they're all talking about what they need to do with the humans, because the humans are all like crazy and they're like, we're going to destroy them. And except there's one that the only thing different is that I think in Plato's one, they're missing Poseidon, or in the Odyssey they're missing Poseidon, which is ironic because Poseidon's the god that created Atlantis. Anyways, exactly the same scene, exactly the same like words that the gods are saying, and you can literally cut and stitch the two together. So if you're clever enough, and if you have enough knowledge, and if you've read all of the enough books, and the Odyssey, you will spot that it's a scene replica, and you can literally stitch them together. And so at the end of Critias, when it goes, and then the gods said, you can start the scene at the beginning of the Odyssey. That's how cool it is. And I was like, right, I don't think Plato, there's not a missing, he didn't mean to, like, it's not missing. It's
That is really interesting.
He meant to do that. So if you know, and if you know your texts, he was pointing you to the very beginning of the Odyssey, the beginning of the adventure. It all circles round. Very cool.
That is really, really cool. There's so much about Athens in general. That city is so. What was going on in men's minds in Athens? Socrates, Plato, Aristotle comes through. The other pre-Socratic philosophers, the Stoics, hanging out, hanging out downtown. There was so much thought there in such a short period of time, like 150 something years. It's just amazing the intellectual and philosophical heights that those guys were able to achieve in just this short blip of time, and the fact that we still talk about the things that they wrote down 2,500 years later is just freaking crazy. And it's probably, well, one, there's probably way more writing than we have today. I mean, definitely there was, but the depth to which that went probably far exceeds what we can possibly understand, right? Like kind of what you're saying about the initiates, people being initiated. Yeah, you have like a deeper understanding. The thing I think about is the Adam and Eve story. On the surface, it's about a man and a woman eating a fruit, but to some groups out there, who I guess you would call them people that are initiated, they interpret it as something much deeper than that. That it's like man and woman who are mating with some like fallen angel and creating a new race of people that become giants and these different bloodlines, blah blah blah. And if you read in between the lines and really dissect everything that's being said, it's a different story, right? That's quite interesting.
Yeah, I know. I very briefly a few years ago started to deep dive into like ancient Bible texts and how they are repeated and like kind of copied homework from a lot of other ancient texts. And it was actually insane, sort of unpacking some of the Bible, and realizing just how I copied the homework of other Mesopotamian texts. It is. Yeah, and the creation stories are mad. Adam and Eve, and yeah, like I've heard different variations of the Adam and Eve one. That what is it off the top of my head? Oh, that like it's all like it wasn't actually fruit, and fruit was just like a metaphor for knowledge. Some people say carnal knowledge.
Yeah.
And yeah, it is weird. But also there's a bit where like I like how Eve always gets the blame. Like Eve ate the fruit. But like Adam has no he doesn't accept any responsibility for being like, yeah, I'll have some fruit too. Like he just went, oh, she made me do it. And I was like, nah, dude, you had free choice and you ate that too.
But yeah, but on the surface, it might be analogous to some of these things where it's really a simplistic explanation of a much more complicated story. Now, I'm actually working on an Atlantis video myself. I haven't done that in a while. So this one is this will be coming out I'm spilling the sauce, you guys. So this one will be coming out not this week, but I think next week. It's going to be called Bronze Age Atlantis, the Lost City of Akrotiri, and it's kind of another Atlantis theory. And so when I think about Atlantis, I think that the story itself is inspired by maybe upwards of like three different things, and maybe it's something that Plato was aware of in his lifetime, and it made him want to write about it. He just probably had a fascination with, I don't know. So about 10 years before he writes Timaeus and Critias, and he writes about Atlantis, there's a city called Helike that is sunk on the coast of Greece. I think it was destroyed by a tidal wave. And so that's something that Helike, I don't think is a super important city, but it's just this dramatic event. There's an earthquake in the Aegean Sea. It sinks this city. A bunch of people die. So maybe that gets Plato like thinking about like, oh, you know what? That reminds me of that story I heard growing up. You know what I mean? So the wheels probably start turning. This is kind of broadly what the video is about. And then he's talking about this in his writings. For anybody who doesn't know, Plato does not have his own words. Plato likes to speak through Socrates. Socrates was Plato's mentor. Socrates was put to death in Athens for corrupting the youth and essentially saying that the gods didn't exist. And so Plato obviously mourned his mentor for his whole life and basically committed his life to writing down all the things that Socrates had taught him and then fixing Socrates' reputation among the Athenians. So he puts a lot of words in Socrates' mouth, of which we don't know. We have absolutely no idea how much of these ideas are originally Socrates' ideas or Plato's ideas. They're melded together. Plato has zero writings that are from his mouth. He always uses Socrates to get his point across. So it's an interesting thing. Shoot, what was I talking about?
Socrates and Plato.
I just got so deep down the mental brain hole. So anyways, so he's talking about, he essentially creates this scene where Socrates is telling his students about Atlantis. And you get the whole story across of how this story was passed down from Solon. Solon, the lawmaker in the 600s BC, travels to Egypt. Here's the story from an Egyptian priest, yada, 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 comes back. It's this great ancient civilization named Atlantis that was at war with Athens and was destroyed, this, that, and the other. A lot of those details are very, very specific. Like when it says it's beyond the gates of Hercules, like that's one specific place, right? Now, depending on where water levels were, we don't really know, but that's a specific location.
No, it's many specific locations. There's like 17.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
There's historical references. I just thought it was just the one place, the Strait of Gibraltar, but they're all over the gaff because historically they were boundary markers or like natural monuments. They could be either, they were like boundary markers for territories. And so I'm getting into a little bit into the weeds in this video, but long story short, one of the things that I think might be an inspiration for another thing that prompted Plato to start telling this story was during the Bronze Age, there was a civilization similar to Atlantis. Very similar. It's almost too similar to be a coincidence, even though a lot of Greek archaeologists say absolutely not. This is not possible. But there was a civilization long before Homer's Iliad and the Odyssey takes place. So Homer's Iliad and the Odyssey is written about 800 BC. It's talking about events from about 12 to 1150 BC. The War of Troy, the Odyssey takes place afterwards. But prior to that, though,
you had this middle Bronze Age period where there was this great ancient civilization that lived on an island known as Crete. They were seafaring. They had control of basically the Greek world, vast trade routes, super wealthy people, and they're called the Minoans. And across the island of Crete, they had upwards of 90 to 100 cities made of these huge palaces with these labyrinths, and the place was so wealthy that probably no Egyptian living at the same time would, or I'm sorry, no Minoan living at that time would ever trade places with an Egyptian. They would go to Egypt and be walking around town. They would be amazed by the temples, but walking around town, they'd be like, this is a slum. I would never live here. But so the Minoan world was so wealthy, probably the kind of wealth that would never be achieved again until Rome was at its height. This is about exactly 1,000 years before Plato lived, and you had this huge society with these palaces that are 4 stories tall. They've got toilets with marble seats up on the 4th floor. They've got indoor plumbing. It's crazy how sophisticated the civilization was. Well, in the year 1550 to 1600 BC, an island that was already circular, known as Santorini, erupts. It's the 4th biggest volcanic eruption in world history. Okay, the atomic bombs that were dropped in Japan were, I could get this measurement wrong, but the numbers are all right, 15 kilotons of energy per atomic bomb. The explosion of the volcano of Thera was 30 million kilotons. I don't know how many more times that is than an atomic bomb, but it's insane. It blackened the sky for like a week. Debris from the volcano landed in Egypt. And it was so bad that some people connect it to the Exodus story, that they think that all the plagues of the Exodus story in Egypt were caused by this volcano on the island of Santorini. Destroyed the city of Akrotiri, which was the wealthiest, most sophisticated city at the time. Blackens the sky. And because it's nighttime and all these waves are just sweep down to the island of Crete where the main Minoan civilization is at, absolute chaos erupts in the Minoan world. And everybody has these lanterns that, at least they think, this is based on the archaeology, because it's thin burn layers, not thick burn layers. So they don't think it was like debris from the volcano landing on the island and burning everything down. But because it was thin burn layers across every city of the Minoan world, what they think was that chaos erupted and people are running around with lanterns, and inevitably they end up burning their own cities down in the chaos. So every city of the Minoan world burns, at least like to a significant degree. And then over the next 100 years, the Minoans just like disappear and slip into obscurity, just disappear in the historical timeline. And then the Mycenaeans, which is Agamemnon from Troy, they sweep into the Minoan world, basically just dissolve the Minoan world. They take over the main Minoan capital, and then boom, the Minoans are gone. But what's really interesting is that the Mycenaeans were living in Athens. Athens was a Bronze Age city as well, not just a classical period city. So Athens is a Mycenaean city, and it was one of the only cities that didn't fall from the Bronze Age. And so when Plato talks about Athens conquering Atlantis as well, you could also draw a similarity to the fact that Athens was a Mycenaean city during this period that the Mycenaeans conquered the Minoans. And also, one of the core myths of the Athenian world is that Theseus, who is an Athenian, goes and kills the Minotaur. Well, the Minotaur is the primal mythological creature of the Minoan world. So it's literally at the core of Athenian mythology that the Athenians, who were Mycenaeans during the Bronze Age, went and conquered the Minotaur, which is kind of analogous to Athens also winning the war against Atlantis. And so I'm wondering how many kernels of truth are like falling into this story, you know? So that's kind of,
Yeah,
yeah.
I can see how the Santorini and the Minoan history could have filtered in and kind of colored in some of the
Mhm.
parts of the ancient story. But then there are so many parts to Crete that just don't fit the brief of
Not at all.
the specific story. The fact that the island is very much located within this
Yeah.
this mouth, this harbor,
Mhm.
and then like the difference with the boundary marker marking out like the Thalassus and the Atlantic Pelagos. There were very different types of seas, and I can see that Santorini is just like smack bang in the middle, off the Greece coast.
Yeah.
I mean, it actually is in a Atlantic Pelagos, to be fair, but the description of the people who dwell on the inside and the outside of the Pillars of Heracles, they
Yeah.
it's basically so near Greece. And also, um, at the point where like after the island get the circular city gets covered with water, not sank, covered. Afterwards, it becomes like impassable for
Mhm.
ships, whereas you can always and have always been able to sail to Santorini.
Well,
I
and
mean,
the other thing is that Akrotiri, actually none of these cities ever sank. They were all burned. So the
mm,
so there's a lot of there's you're absolutely right. There's so many key reasons here that archaeologists themselves say that the Minoan theory is not right. Like outright. I don't think of maybe a couple Greek archaeologists I've known who think that the Minoan theory could be a part of Plato's Atlantis. But even they say that even they say no, this isn't, this isn't
yeah,
Atlantis.
but 100%, I think that Plato's version, he was tailoring the story, the ancient story that he had
Yeah.
in his like backlog. He was tailoring it to his audience, to his students, to his people, and so obviously he's gonna like Greekify it. He's gonna put Greek spice on
100%.
it,
100%.
the description, so that everybody can picture something.
Mhm.
Like it's like saying if you went out to an Aborigine and tried to explain like kind of an Apple store, you haven't got the reference, so you try and translate it in a way that would be using their,
Yeah, yeah,
um,
yeah, yeah.
so describing it's going to look very Greek. So everyone's
Mhm.
looking for like a Greek
Well,
Atlantis
and
or
the
a
other thing is Athens being included in the story might be totally invented. Like Plato may have, it's possible that Athens was not a part of the original story, but that Plato included it so that it would be extra poignant to the people that he's talking to, right? So
yeah.
that's something we have to consider too. Maybe
So
Athens really wasn't at war with Atlantis. Maybe Plato just said that so that the Athenians would just listen to what he's saying.
but okay, I keep harking on about this documentary, but honestly, it's so eye-opening. There was a Neolithic. So again, we're looking at Greek, but if we go back to Neolithic, if we go back to 9600 BC and before, there was actually evidence for two distinct warring people across North Africa. And there's like a burial ground somewhere east of Libya, more towards Egypt, where I think it was about 12,000 years ago, where there was like this huge, massive fight and a battle, and it's very it's very easy to see how there could actually be like this a Neolithic origin story of a society who lived on this side of the waterways of North Africa in the Green Sahara, and a society that lived over there, and they meet and they fought and they were kind of going back and forth, and maybe one side was more powerful and did defeat all of the other, and that's where the story of the Atlanteans coming out and kind of coming across Libya and parts of Egypt and parts of Europe, and beating the crap out of them. Um, yeah, it's very interesting when you look at it, and then there's like cave art that depicts this like battle and depicts it like lots and lots of arrow fighting stick men. Um, but yeah, I'm just gonna say that I am keeping an eye on the comments, guys, and I can see Stig. I'm seeing your super chats. We just save the super chats at the end to respond to because that's just fair, and we make sure that we definitely see them. But they're coming through, and I can see them.
Yeah, it's a one strike. If you start leaving a bunch of rude comments, you're just never going to leave a comment ever again. No one's ever going to see it. You'll type comments and they'll go into nothing. I'll never ever respond to to one of your comments or one of your emails.
No, he's it is he didn't think his start comments were working, but they 100% are, dude. They're coming through. But yeah, it's spicy, and it's a spicy subject because everybody has their opinion and everybody has like their version of how they see it. I remember someone was saying, yeah, like an argument for it has to be in the Azores because there's a descriptor in the text that says that it was opposite from it says it's literally opposite from a place in ancient old Spain. So it has to be out from there. And I'm like, yeah, but so is North Africa. It's also exactly opposite from ancient North Spain. So so basically it works either way. Whether you turn it this way and look at it, it works. If you turn it, yeah. Someone said, I have no money for a super chat, but could someone please mention the 1554 map of Africa and the number of crowns? I don't know what. I'm going to give this a quick Google. 1554 map of Africa. Okay, quite a few come up, so I'm not sure. Oh, there is a lot of crowns. Yes, you are right.
1554 map of Africa. You know what's cool about these guys is that people in the past had access to more historical documents than we do. Because so this is like, if we're calling it the Middle Ages, it's like the very end of the Middle Ages, the Renaissance era. I don't know much about this time period, but these guys are translating a lot from Latin and Greek sources. And so they've got in their libraries, they have so many maps from ancient times. Yeah. And so that's where we can see some of these original names of places like poking through time. It's really, really cool.
Actually, I think that was like briefly what George's email was about. He was talking about by the time of the 5th century BC and the trip of Herodotus did a trip apparently around Libya and Africa, I believe. And so basically saying, and also the Persians tried to circumnavigate around Africa. If you look at the maps from the Greek times, this is quite interesting. Like Libya is kind of well charted, but after Libya, it just falls off in a flat line, like the end of the world, and past then is like unknown mapped area. And I think he's saying that like the waterways, we are underestimating just how much water there was in North Africa and in Africa in the Green Sahara, and it was literally like we superimpose almost like the Amazon jungle over it. That unless you knew the routes that post Libya, that there was a huge amount of water to cross to get to the other side. Now we just see it as all one big desert and one big continent, but yeah, I think that I think we've massively underestimated. And I think George is trying to send me on a research route about the waterways and
we're still talking like, are we talking 9,000 BC ish? That's Green Sahara.
No, he's saying I think George is saying up to the 5th century BC, so up.
Oh wow! So
he goes. We know exactly when navigation. He says something. I'm going to quote George's email here. 3 circumnavigations of Persians around Africa, which were not around the modern Africa, but from the internal Atlantis plus Central plus East Africa wet route. The East African wet route he's talking about. We know exactly when the navigation stopped. It was the 5th century BC. So it dried up from 5th century BC. But before then, there was a wet route that was around northern, central, and East Africa. And
that is interesting, isn't it?
So I'm literally like reading this. I need to research this. I don't know what George is talking about, but I'm gonna have a little look.
Yeah, well, that is a mysterious place. I mean, we don't really start learning we don't really start learning too much about that period from primary sources until I mean, I don't know what you call Homer's Iliad and the Odyssey, but I mean, I know that Odysseus stops off on an island off of the coast of North Africa, and that might be an interesting read. I'm not sure if anything would be relevant there, but beyond that, um, there may be something from the Peloponnesian Wars about North Africa, but maybe not. I'm really thinking early Roman authors would probably be, because it will probably be the one of the first times you can read a primary source about what's going on in North Africa, and that's probably the second century BC, in the Punic Wars, when when Hannibal is messing up Rome real bad. So yeah, I mean, think about how much time the ancient world is moving along, but that northwest Africa coast, that whole area, just unaccounted for so long.
For so long, and apparently, yeah, that, yeah, um, um, yeah, amazing. I'm just making sure I'm skimming all of your comments, guys, because we do this show live, so because we want you guys to be involved in the research and the chit chat. Okay, I'm very interested to see your Atlantis theory video. Are you going to drop your Titanic video just to completely?
Oh my gosh, yes, I have. Yes, oh my gosh, I can't believe I forgot about that. Yes,
Because
The Titanic video has to come out.
I'm also going to do a Titanic video in the very near future, and I'm going to race you. So who can
Okay.
get it out?
Yeah. So my Titanic video, that we filmed was it was basically Johanna and I chit-chatting about what makes Titanic so interesting. And
Mhm.
then the other core part of the video was about these three artifacts from the ancient to medieval world that were on the Titanic, that are lost today, that are probably still at the bottom of the Atlantic Ocean. So that'll be really cool. What's if you want to spill it, what's going to be your Titanic video?
Oh, well, basically, as someone who's like fascinated by Titanic, I thought I knew quite a lot about it, and I surprised myself when I went down a rabbit hole, and I found just like a huge bunch of really cool facts about it that I didn't know, and so I'm assuming that maybe like a lot of other people don't know. So I'm gonna collate a video of like kind of 30 facts you probably don't know, and also I want to just highlight the story of the Carpathia, the rescue ship, because again, everyone sort of knows the play by play of what happened on Titanic, but there is another movie that I think I want to be made, which is this story of the rescue ship and just how actually remarkable it was that they even were able to rescue the amount of people that they did. It was all down to like this incredible series of events and circumstances. So I just want to tell that story because I think it's really cool, and I didn't know it. I just knew the main one, and because also we have a lot more information about Titanic now because I think it was last year. It was fresh last year. They were able to do some really good. They sent down like scanning drones, and they've scanned the Titanic, um, like corpse, and they've got like the most detailed high res um library of images of it now. You can literally go. I think there's somewhere there's like a huge 3D thing, and you can literally go through. And they've discovered so many things about Titanic that initially when people like so for example, a lot of the survivors said that they remembered seeing the Titanic go down with the lights on. And everyone was like, no, that was impossible. That couldn't have happened. The electricity went out and it would have been completely pitch black. You wouldn't have seen anything. And they were like, no, I remember it because I'm traumatized and I remember the lights going on. And everyone kept telling the survivors, no, that couldn't have happened. And then because of this scanning thing, they've realized that like the boiler room, the steam room that was actually keeping the electric circuits going, they can it was intact at the time of sinking, and so they can tell that yeah, that was right, the electrics would have been on. And so I mean, just the visual of it, it like it sends me, it gets creepy jeepies. But the lights were on as it went under, and you would have seen it for quite some time.
Yeah,
Before.
that is scary.
And also the survivors also talked about the sound. They were like, it went down and there was a big boom after like what varying reports of like 10 to 20
Mhm.
seconds, and everyone was like, no, that couldn't have happened. And then they've turned out now that they've seen that they can see all the points where there's like pressure explosions happening,
Yeah.
and that's exactly what happened when as it was like descending, when it broke off and fell down between sort of like about 12 seconds. It would have literally like impacted and like compacted.
Yeah.
What's the word I'm thinking of there? The opposite of like an explosion.
Implosion.
Implosion. There you go.
Yeah.
And the sound that would have made, it was like a sonic boom. So basically, maybe we should put a little bit more trust in the eyewitness accounts. But yeah, they were right. They saw the lights go under and they heard the sonic boom of
So
it.
so typical of people who come later on and make themselves experts and then think that they know more than the people who were there.
It's yeah, especially if you've got multiple people going, no, that's what I saw. That's what I saw too. But yeah, they've realized that that the electrics were on, and you would have been able to see. I don't know why it's way more creepy that you can see lights go under. Um,
Yeah.
and
It's
yeah,
it's unnatural, right? Like it's just yeah,
it's
but it's
very
like
creepy.
the lights like indicate something that should be alive, right? And it's sinking
Yeah.
and yeah, that's crazy.
Um, and the good news is with that sonic boom, because they know that it all like impacted,
Mhm.
is that anybody who was still on the ship and was still like under in a room, they would have just been squished and died instantly, and they wouldn't have felt anything. So actually, it's kind of a worse death if you were just
Freezing to death, yeah.
freezing to death very slowly on the surface. You probably would have been better off to stay on the ship, to be honest.
All
Does
right,
any Yeah.
was there enough room for two on the door?
Oh, I'm gonna say yes. I watch that all the time, and didn't they do like a myth busting thing a while ago about it?
I could see that being something. That's definitely that's
I'm pretty sure they did a myth busting episode, and it turned out that yeah, you can put two people on the door. And I think James Cameron even went back and had a go at it. Um, but yeah, I would say yeah. Like when I watch that movie, I'm always like, just scooch over, or like, you know what I mean, or like both get both your bodies, put your feet in the water, and both get your heart out of the water, both
yeah,
heart,
yeah.
or just like be on top. I don't know. I don't know. I think they could have like faffed around a bit more. I
Yeah,
know he's like, it's like I'll never let go, and then what does she do straight away? She lets go.
let's go immediately. He sinks to the bottom of the ocean. Can you believe that people ever had the guts to get in a machine and go down to look at the Titanic? I'd be like, you know what? We're gonna we can send cameras down there. Clearly, I don't think I need to see this with my own eyes.
Oh,
It's not like
100%.
it's not like you're gonna take me anywhere that your cameras haven't gone, right?
100%. And now, I mean, like, I feel like I've already been down to the Titanic because of this drone scan. The drone scan has literally scanned a high res.
This is cool.
It sees better than my eyes. So
Is this something we can look at?
yeah, I think so. It's like type in like new scan of like 3D modeling of the
Oh, I
Titanic.
see it. Yeah.
Um
Whoa.
yeah,
Yeah, you're right.
the scans are insane. Also, there's one last Titanic fact, and then we'll need to like come into land.
Mhm.
But this is like a fun fact. So obviously the interior design of the Titanic was very posh, and they wanted it to be like the most up to date new fashion of interior design back in 1912. So obviously the grand staircase and all the floors of the first class, it looks like marble, but obviously marble is just like way too heavy to put on that level of the boat. So they use this brand new interior design thing called lino. I don't know if you call it that in America, but basically lino is like a kind of cheap plastic. A lot of like bathrooms and kitchens in like the 70s and 80s and the 90s were covered in this thing called lino. And that's what that was. So all of the like fake marble flooring, it was linoleum, it was lino. And I just think that's really funny that this first class people paying thousands and thousands for a Titanic first class ticket. And they're just walking around on what your grandma would have in her kitchen, like this cheap little lino stuff.
That's
But yeah.
do you believe the idea of the ships being switched?
I know, and I looked into that as well. I'm ready to fact check that because no, they are sisters, but they are not twins. There's differences between the Olympia and Titanic. So there's like one of them has an extra porthole, or there's different interior bits, and so you can like quite easily check which boat is which. You couldn't just take the name off one and the name on the other. And also all the parts, like just quickly rub the name off. But also more importantly is like parts of the ship and even in interior stuff like the furniture and things like that. It's all got number codes. So the number code for Olympia and the number code for Titanic, and I can't remember off the top of my head what it was, but one is like 401 and one is like 406 or something. And they are correct. Like you can see it imprinted and embossed into the iron on the bottom of the seafloor. It is like the correct code for Titanic and the correct code for Olympia. And like you can find it in cupboards and in things that are design elements that were for the Titanic. They are the label of the correct embossed number. So you'd have to change not just the name, you'd have to like change all the embossing of all the parts, which would then literally not make it that boat. So yeah. It's a cool conspiracy theory, but like it really falls apart quite quickly when I don't think you can't really get around the codes on the boat.
Well, Johanna, what do you got coming up in the future besides is that going to be your next video?
No, I've got a couple of. Well, I'm deciding what videos I'm going to do in what order. I've got ADHD, so sometimes I think I'm going to go on one train, and then my brain goes, "Nope, we're going this way." But I've also started to research pre-dynastic kings and pre-dynastic, like what was going on in Egypt, like pre-the dynasties, pre-dynasty 0, because it's such a weird grey area. But I keep picking up that one, but it's so complex and such a headache. So I want to do a pre-dynastic kings video, and I want to do a video on texts that we've lost, that we know that we've lost.
Heck yeah, I love that.
Like ancient texts, or just historical texts, not necessarily even ancient ones, because there is some stuff that like we know we've lost. And that's
a big one is Ptolemy, Alexander's best friend. He wrote a biography of Alexander that all the ancient sources are based on, and yet we don't have Ptolemy's writings. Probably because they were in the Library of Alexandria. Thanks, Julius. Appreciate it.
Yeah,
but yeah, that's super cool. I really like that. And the pre-dynastic topic as well. There's so much going on in pre-dynastic Egypt. People don't realize, like, if you look at those little ivory knife handles or whatever, and they have the images carved into them, you can see the armies charging each other with buildings behind them and stuff. I mean, we think of Egypt as like just, Egypt kind of begins sometime around 3000 BC, and that's when it all got kicked off. No, it was already going on for at least like 1,000 years leading up to that. But weird, like, primordial period where we don't really know anything at all.
And I really like the Scorpion King was a real thing. There was a couple of rulers called Scorpion.
Don't bring up the movie.
Which is so cool.
Terrible.
Definitely gonna have to like put The Rock in my video or something. But
there's not the movie. I'm not gonna get off on this, but the movie has nothing to do with Egypt.
Well, yeah, they just took the name in it. But Scorpion King was real, and there was a couple of them. So that's a video that I want to do. I want to do the Titanic, really cool weird fun facts, and all of like the lost books of history. Right, let's go into some of the start, because we can whiz. Thank you very much if you have left us a little
Yeah.
star.
Can you select any of them? You can
I
put them
don't
up.
know. But
Turn over the power to you. All right, let's do word of mouth guy. 10 big USD. Thank you very much. Hi, Luke. Synchronicity. I just posted a clip of Johanna's work in your recent live with Wandering Wolf. Her perspective on Athens, crazy. Damn, I'm psychic AF. I'm copping a hat, by the way. Peace. Which hat are you getting? Raiders University or Johanna's Genius tinfoil hat?
tinfoil. I love my tinfoil hat. I get comments on it quite a lot when I'm out and about.
Love that. Okay, so the Stig sent you a relevant email message yesterday.
Yes, I have got your email, Stig. I also have a baby, so I'm 24/7 with my baby. But yes, I have got your emails.
And then we got a few from Stig. Plato's Critias was Critias ideas, by the way. Yes.
Oh yeah, because like historically, Solon's ancestor was Critias, and he was was it the other way around?
I think Critias.
Solon.
You go ahead.
No, it's quite late, so I don't trust my own.
I might be crazy, but I think Critias is one of Socrates' students.
Oh, okay. Well, he was also a relative of Solon and Plato. He's to do with the link of there's 4 named people that the information goes through before it hits Plato. Yeah. I think he's like a great granddaddy of Plato, but it's like the name Josh. There's probably a lot of Critiases.
It could, yeah, that could be the case. Plato didn't write Beyond. I'll challenge you on that. I don't have a strong enough opinion to challenge you.
I don't remember the word beyond being in the translation. But George would be the guy to ask for it. But I don't remember it saying at the Pillars of Heracles across from cadets. It says that there is an island in front of. It actually says in front of the mouth. The harbor mouth that it talks about.
But these questions are really for someone who can speak ancient Greek. Us English speaking folk,
we rely entirely on
about
we
it.
rely on 200-year-old 19th century translations. But yeah,
Plato said Atlantis is at the what is POH? Oh, Pillars of Hercules.
Pillars of Hercules.
That is, it could be. You guys are crazy. Plato pointed west and real places. Santorini equals deflection. Shame on you. Yep, shame on me, man. Sorry I offended you. Thoughts on Land of Kim? Have you investigated? I love Land of Kim. I think he's a great guy.
I love outside the box thinkers. I love that his like whole thing is so left field, and I like that he's just completely turning the ideas upside down. I like that he's also like changing in a minute, because I got to interview him when he first ever arrived on the scene, and I've seen that he actually like changes and adapts what he's thinking about, and it's evolving. So we're just watching like his real life research, like real time research, and I know that he's changed the timelines of some stuff that he thinks. He takes something on, so I really respect that when somebody kind of live remolds how they think. I think
and he's genuinely a good guy too.
He does it really well.
I spent some time with he and his wife, and talked to him lots since then, and Johanna and I are gonna see him again very soon. And he's genuinely a good guy, and I like that his theory. He actually, a lot of people who are maybe ancient civilizations theorists or whatever, maybe they spend a lot of time talking about the pyramids, but you never actually hear a real theory about what they did or why they did what they did. But his theory is like it's actually applied in some way. And when you hear it, it makes sense of like, oh, this is actually how it would benefit the Egyptians, and why the Egyptians would build something like this, and why it would elevate Egypt above the rest of the ancient world. And I think that alone has merit, and it makes me like his work.
Yeah, because a lot of the pyramids are energy harvesters. That's a cool theory. But then be like energy for what? It kind of it kind of
Mm,
goes, well, we don't know. Whereas I like that he follows through with his idea and goes, oh well, they're making these substances and they're making these chemicals and they can be used for
yeah.
X, Y, and Z and agriculture, and they can be used
Mhm.
in creations of
Yeah.
perfume and paint and art and like actual like kind of applied. You're like, okay, well that actually like the theory kind of pans further than just the pyramid.
It,
So
it's an exciting theory of how they made all the boring stuff we know they had.
and I
It's cool.
and I like I love what if. I love what if, playing what if. I think a lot of the fun comes from you just sort of suspending disbelief and going what if. And I think that some people don't like that at all, and that's what a lot of people, when they like to sort of go on the side of not speculating at all. But I like imagination. So he lights my imagination on fire a lot with his stuff.
Yeah. Very cool. Okay, then we got a last one here. Stig, thank you for the big 10 USD. Thank you for support on my passion on what Plato said in high context style. Plato relied on shared cultural knowledge and symbolism. So we didn't spill out every detail, and the audience filled the gaps.
Well, yeah, that's what George was saying about the different levels of initiation and different levels of um yeah, it was very layered, and we don't get it reading it in some second-hand English translate old English translation. We don't get the what it would have been like to read it in the time.
Yeah, it's so true. I mean, the reality is, unless you're an Athenian speaking Greek, living in Athens 2,400 years ago, you can never understand the full context of Plato. There's so
Yeah.
many little things in there. It's an Athenian speaking. There's no way someone who's not an Athenian, no matter how much you study Athens, are you ever going to be able to fully understand what he's saying here. I mean, it's just the implications are like limitless as far as that goes. And then, let alone that's the degree of separation we had from him. Think about the degree of separation from your average Athenian living at that time, who's never been to a philosopher's school, who's never gone to the university, who's not initiated into any of these groups whatsoever. And then he reads Plato. He still doesn't even get it to the fullest degree of what Plato's top students would understand. So we're
Mhm.
like many degrees of separation separated from Plato.
Away from it.
Many, 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 many degrees of separation.
Mhm. And also there could also be so many texts that have completely got lost in history, and so there are like hidden references to things that we don't like, unknown unknowns.
So much, right? Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So
There's probably like a phrase in there that everybody there will go, "Oh yeah, that's such and such, and
yeah,
that means this." But
6, 7.
yeah, exactly, exactly.
Okay, I've just shown my age. Off to bed. Right.
Well, man,
Yeah, great to catch up, old
great
chum.
to catch up. Yeah, I forgot to tell you, my DNA tests got updated, and my
Oh yeah,
Scottish overtook my English by 2% now.
nice.
So,
I I'm
so
nearly 12% Scottish. What are you?
now you sent me that. So are you like a vast array of European, or is it like the vast majority English and 11%?
Yeah, 70% English, 12%
17 or 10?
Scottish. Yeah, 12% Scottish. Then the rest is like Welsh and Irish, like
Okay.
5%. And then broader European. I used to have Scandinavian, then they took that off me. So okay.
Mhm.
Broader European, and then 0.3% North African. Yes, Atlantean.
Hey, there you go. There you go.
So
That means you're
there we are.
probably like Carthaginian from Hannibal's days.
Yeah,
Hannibal
there's
versus Rome.
um yeah, definitely that kind of North Africa, Tunisia, Morocco, Albania. I'm gonna
Yeah,
throw Egypt in there because I want to.
yeah, yeah. I'm sure you had an ancestor in Egypt. So I started looking into this, and I was like, okay, what are the implications? So I start looking into my family lineage, and I'm able to trace back that my DNA is like a Scottish Highlander, and then I start running. I was texting you about this yesterday. I start running the implications of like, okay, what's my ancient DNA? Turns out I'm like 70% Celt. And so like an absurd percentage Celt. And so I started looking into the Scottish history and everything. And I just doing what I do last night. And I found that the highest percentage of Scottish Highlanders in the United States is literally right here where I live, in this region of the Piedmont of North Carolina.
Well, that makes so much sense because if you've seen Outlander,
Yeah.
then you'll know that that's where they settled. The Scottish settled in North Carolina.
Oh,
That's why.
really?
That's where they.
I haven't
That's where
watched. I haven't watched Highlander yet, but okay,
Yeah.
I guess that makes sense.
Outlander, not Highlander.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No.
Outlander.
I made the mistake of watching. So I watched Outlander, and then I was like, "Hey, but what is Highlander?" Because I confused them for years, and I didn't watch Outlander. And then I realized I love Outlander. Highlander, not so much. It's a
Is
very
that
weird
also
movie.
a show?
No, it's a very weird movie from the 80s where they got a Frenchman to play a Scottish man, and he didn't know English before he filmed the film. It
Wow.
like watching it now is like, but they're remaking it with Henry Cavill, so I think that or Henry Cavill, like Henry Cavill is like Cruella de Vil.
Yeah.
Yeah, but so Highlander, like the premise of the movie was cool, but the execution was a bit like, however, Outlander, like 10 out of 10, chef's kiss, amazing TV show. But it makes sense what you're saying. The Scots settled in North Carolina in the OG when first ever people were settling there. So so that's why your ancestors came from Scotland right the way over.
And what's the likelihood that I would move here and then all of a sudden I'm around my kinfolk again?
Back home.
So I'm taking my wife to the biggest Highlander festival is down the road from me at Grandfather Mountain, and so there's like 100,000 people a year. So I'm gonna go reconnect with my people. Oh, and I showed my wife Braveheart. We haven't watched Lord of the Rings yet, but I showed her Braveheart.
You must
cry.
Oh my gosh, like if you like Braveheart, the Lord of the Rings guy, it's gonna be your favorite film ever. I know it, both of you. I know you both love it.
Now, see, Braveheart was pretty good though. So you're really saying something here.
Oh my gosh, I got like it's. You guys are gonna be on high for days after you watch Lord of the Rings.
Maybe we do a follow up and we just do a Raiders Lord of the Rings episode.
Mate, I think that will go down. I think everybody, Lord of the Rings is it's one of the best movies ever made in the history of film. It's so good. And I remember watching it at the cinema. I got to be of the generation. I got to go see it like live, as it came out, each one. And then you had to wait a whole year for the next one. It was agony.
And they filmed all three of them at the same time?
They filmed it all at the same time. Oh my god, and then do you know what's even better than the films? The making of the films. This was when DVD was at prime, like height of thing. And so I think there's something like 300 hours of behind the scenes. It's insane. And I almost like watching the behind the scenes more than the movies, almost. But you can't, but it won't make sense to you. Just watch the movie, Luke.
I think we've been talking about this the whole time we've had this podcast.
Every time I'm like, have you seen the movie yet? Have you seen the movie yet? Please, you're gonna love it. You're gonna love it. You and Lauren are gonna love it. You're gonna love it. You're gonna love it. Prove me wrong. Do you know what? Prove me wrong. Watch it
this year.
Prove me wrong. Watch it. Come back, and if you don't like it, I will eat like my sock. All right.
Eat your sock. Okay. Now I know I'm gonna like it. I know it's beloved for a reason.
It's going to become part of your personality. I know you dress with a nod to Indiana Jones. Mm-hmm. The way that you're gonna have like elven armor or like, yeah,
come back a completely different person.
You're gonna come back with like Hobbit shoes or something like it.
Well, Raiders,
I'm making me want to watch it again now. I might do. Actually, I don't have time, but when I have time, I will next watch.
All right, guys. Well, until next time, Johanna.
Next time.
Lovely chatting with you again. Lovely chatting with the Raiders again. And we will not make you guys wait so long.
Yeah. Sorry. We'll get better. Yeah. Just leave my baby to sleep and then we can make more Raiders.
Yeah.
Okay.
Definitely will. So, all right.
Over and out.
We still don't have an outro, but you know, I think that's just a part of the show. Oh wait, I was about to leave the studio. I gotta end the stream.
Don't leave me.